I work in a dispensary. We're tackling my number one question I get asked. How do you tell which vape cartridges are good and which ones are crap? Grab a munchy snack if you needed, a drink, and maybe a pen and paper because class is in session. So much goes into it. Basically, who's making it, how's it being made, what's in it, and then a whole shit ton of personal preference. I'm going to be talking about distillate, resin, rosin, and full spectrum hash oil right meow. So all 4 of those different types of vapes are extracted in completely different ways, and that's basically what makes them different from each other. For distillate, they're using a process called molecular distillation, which takes dried cured cannabis and then they turn it into a vapor and then they cool it back down into a liquid. With resin, rosin, and full spectrum hash oil, resin and full spectrum hash oil, their extraction method is a solvent-based one, so that means like ethanol, butane, CO2. And with rosin, it's literally only heat and pressure. That's it. Now, science shows that there is a little bit of a difference when it comes to potency and how potent each one of those categories can be. They have put resin at the bottom. I will say that. They have put resin at the bottom. Technically, distillate can test higher than resin. Now, that's out for debate, I think, if you personally feel like you get higher on distillate versus resin. I think a lot of people say they feel higher on resin versus distillate. But technically, you're going to get higher percentages with distillate. And rosin and full spectrum hash oil are definitely going to be the more potent of the categories. Now, with vape cartridges, we also got to talk about the terpenes in them because there's botanical derived terpenes and cannabis derived terpenes. This is for sure going to come down to personal preference just because of how much those BDTs and CDTs affect your high and the vape cartridge itself. So the big difference is botanical derived terpenes are going to give you an extra super sweet flavor, aroma, etc. You like the fact that it feels like you're smoking a bag of Skittles, then you always want to go with botanical derived terpenes. You'll have a great time. If you want more of a cannabis flavor and you really do not like sweet stuff at all in your vape cartridges, you're definitely going to want to do cannabis derived terpenes. Neither are worse than the other because terpenes are literally found in everything. That's why it comes down to preference basically on this one. And because every cultivator does different things with their vape cartridges, that's why it's important to be educated on what your brand that you're using is doing with their vapes. So yeah, like I said, a lot of it's going to come down to your specific personal preference. I think most of it really just comes down to potency and then extraction method. Those seems to be the 2 that people care a lot about. And then ultimately that's going to make it up in your mind what you think is the best versus the worst and what works best for you. And as always, I'm but one bud tender in a sea of millions. If you're another stoner or bud tender and you have any other facts and or stories about any of those vape cartridges and what they do and extraction methods and all that, leave it in the comments below. We would all love to learn.